Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday at noon Techstrong Gang show. You know, this whole week we've been going at noon trying to figure out, do people like it better at noon than they do at 10 Eastern time? For our West Coast folks like Jon Swartz, it makes all the difference in the world. For people in London or Paris, it may not. But let us know if you can. Put it in comments, email us, whatever. We'd like to hear. Otherwise, we just go by how many people are joining in. But speaking of people joining in, I've got a bunch of great people on our Techstrong Gang panel this morning, afternoon. Well, I guess technically it's afternoon. Let me introduce you to them. We have not behind or in front of the brick wall, Ms. Teri Robinson. We have from, I guess he's home in Colorado, it looks like to me, Andi Mann. As I mentioned, our man out in the West Coast, Jon Swartz, and our man out in the East Coast, or the man in the High Castle, Mike Vizard, sitting atop Westchester County. Gang, welcome. It's certainly another happy, chock full of news day in tech. There's so much going on. It's like, how do you make sense of it all? Mike, I'll be like Dr. Chandra in 2010. Will I dream?
Well, yeah. Well, Jon has this great story talking about how NVIDIA is creating this dojo dream where they're training humanoid robots by letting them watch videos of humans. And apparently they're going to learn to do all kinds of interesting things. Of course, I read that and I immediately thought of Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, yes, which is the basis for Blade Runner. And, you know, Jon, I don't know, is that where this all winds up at the end?
Yeah. I love that reference and the Philip K. Dick reference because, in a sense, it really is like a real life Blade Runner. By the way, trivia: the original choice to play Deckard was Dustin Hoffman, which didn't work out. In any case, so there's this interesting project that NVIDIA was involved in, and basically are spearheading it because, as we all know, Jensen Huang is obsessed with physical AI and what robots can do in all manners, in all types of industries. So they put together this team, this collaborative effort to create this AI system that teaches humanoid robots or machines how to navigate the physical world by watching, in this case, 44,000 hours of human video. The project involves Stanford, NVIDIA, as we mentioned, UC Berkeley, University of Texas, and they developed something they call the robot world model, which is basically capable of generalizing across diverse environments and objects. It's interesting. This is the idea. The process is bypassing the traditional robot training, which can be long and very tedious. And I can attest to it because I've seen some of the attempts that are being done in places like Carnegie Mellon. It leads to all sorts of possibilities, which I'm sure we're going to want to talk about, and also within the confines of what's going on with the economy, in the job market, and robots, and all the controversy we're hearing involving not just Amazon, but any company that aspires to use robots. This can mean the world of difference for consumers, enterprises, manufacturers, everything. And I think it's scary, and I think it's maybe happening too fast. That's my opinion. But I also find this utterly fascinating and incredible.
I think it can't happen fast enough. Okay. It can't happen fast enough. You know, I have two movie references upon reading this. So I thought a little bit about the Philip K. Dick, you know, do Robots Dream, but really it's Arthur Clarke. I think it was 2010, the sequel, when Dr. Chandra is going to put Hal to sleep, and he asked Dr. Chandra, "Will I dream?" And Dr. Chandra had to lie to him, and he never lies to Hal. But in any event, the other thing, this is kind of like in the old World War II movies where the Italian guys would want to try to get a ride home with the American GIs and quote movie lines because the only English they learned was from watching American movies. Are these robots going to, like, what kind of human videos are we showing them? Are we showing them movies? Are we going to, you know what I mean? Are they going to be quoting Scarface lines? What do we better be careful what kind of.
We watch it, it's showing them Real Housewives of whatever.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
I do have a question about that because at some point, you know, some of these robots are going to be, shall we say, anatomically correct. So, like, what kind of movies are we going to show these robots?
Well, Mike, you're going in a whole. I wasn't prepared to go that route.
I was thinking more about how they're
influenced. Yeah, I was thinking about a robot. Yeah, there have been robots sticking his head out the window and yelling "Stella."
I mean, are the robots going to want to start seeing those kind of movies? I mean, that would be,
Well, that would be something. I wouldn't put it past those Moltbots. They seem to be pushing the boundaries. But seriously, all kidding aside, guys, all kidding aside, John, you're right. The promise, let's call it the promise of robots, not the fear. The promise of robots is that they're going to take over so much manual work, like factory sort of work. But, if you've ever watched the company Figure and their Figure 3 YouTube videos, hotel check-in people, UPS drivers and deliverers, household chores, walking the dogs, they already can weld pretty good and build cars, right? Those are not necessarily humanoid robots, but what type of work isn't a robot capable of? Mm-hmm. Surgery, check, right? We've got robots doing surgery for a while already. What isn't fair game for a well-trained robot?
Political operatives.
Some think they're robots now.
Yeah.
Well, so last night, by coincidence, I was watching MS Now, and there's an interview with Bernie Sanders, and he pointed out, and he started talking about robots. I'm not sure he's aware of DreamDojo, but he brought up the fact that Amazon, which is in the process of slashing hundreds of thousands of jobs eventually, they're going to replace, he said 400,000, but he also has said 600,000 workers with robots. And he's going to introduce legislation to address this. I have no idea how his legislation in any way, shape, or form can influence what they're going to do. But I mean, it brings up a good point. I mean, robots are going to do a lot of great things for us. But on the flip side, they're going to impact us, good and bad. And I think first and foremost, in this economy and with so many job losses, especially with big tech screaming from the hills about all the things that physical AI can do, and bragging about how it's going to replace or in fact enhance their workforces, I think that also raises a lot of red flags. And it's not just Amazon, but I think it's Salesforce, ServiceNow, Meta.
No, it's a different Amazon. First of all, hey, we added 130,000 new jobs this month. You believe that, don't you?
Of course.
But in any event, the jobs at Amazon are not necessarily AWS jobs. They're Amazon warehouse delivery jobs. That's not the Salesforce crowd. That's not.
No, but I mean, they're talking about. But I mean, they're talking about different types of jobs, like type of robot. But yeah, you're right. But I'm thinking
those are blue collars. But here's, Andy, I know you want to say something. I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
Yeah, look, I think this is a really important point. We've got this idea, and we're idealists here, right? We think that we're going to get robots and they're going to help us take out the trash. They're going to change the diapers. They're going to fill the potholes in the street. You know what? They're not. They're going to fight wars and they're going to arrest us. Look, we've been talking through this for 50 years. Automation is going to, hundreds of years with the Industrial Revolution, that automation is going to be good for regular humans. And it can be, and I've worked myself out of a job multiple times with automation. The big problem is that these robots specifically, and I agree with you, Alan, there's amazing opportunity to do amazing things here. But in a capitalist economy, someone's going to pay for it, and they're going to pay for it because they can extract value from it. And they won't be able to extract value from providing a robot to take my trash out or change diapers for a single mom or something like that. Those people won't be able to afford the robots. The people who can afford them are the billionaires, the people who are going to be able to sack hundreds of thousands of workers and replace them with robots on menial tasks, manufacturing, mining, shipping, logistics, sweeping, these sorts of things. I'm a bit going overboard, I guess. I mean, to start with, what can go wrong?
But I will tell you, Here's my bet. I live near Boca Raton, Florida. I would bet you in 10 years, a sizable portion of the households here are going to have household robots.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
We don't
Rosie's
use our
got it.
ovens here.
So
No one
can I-
Andy,
cooks.
I was going to mention, Andy, you're sorry about Andy. You're so right about the military. They're
Yes.
the first adopters usually. And I remember doing a story 20 years ago. We had this project when I was at USA Today. We had this project with CNN, and it was all about unmanned flights, unmanned battle.
No, we're seeing that
warfare.
now, right? Who's investing in fighter jets, not drones?
So-
Mike, what do you got?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the U.S. consumer that's been holding up our economy now for several, if not many years. And if those consumers no longer have jobs, especially blue collar jobs, well, what will hold up the economy? And
AI factories.
Are we kind of looking at the death of capitalism here? If you think it through.
No, but Marx always said you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves. But here's the thing. There's a reverse argument. It's ludicrous to think you're going to tie yourselves to the tracks to prevent the train of progress from going on through. If a robot could do a job better, cheaper, faster than a human, market dictates use the robot, right? Unless you want to go start up some like Tennessee Valley Authority thing and send a whole bunch of people with shovels to go dig ditches and build dams or something, right, to make busy work. I did a Shimmy Says on this last month. What are all these new AI jobs? We don't want them to be human busy work jobs
Right.
that really should be done by AI or robots,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
We need to find what's the next, and it may not be a job. You start getting into this basic universal income, this whole Star Trek sort of future where humans pursue their passions and it's not as tied to a job or a salary or something. And I'm not saying I won't be alive for this, so it's all good. But this is our children's children's children.
I mean, you
But
don't
you
know
know,
with medical advances, you may be alive. I mean,
That's true. Maybe they'll
Yeah.
download me into a cyborg.
that's
Well,
right.
remember what happened in Blade Runner? Remember these
Yes.
replicants were used for slave labor, and eventually they got smart enough to understand they were being exploited before they revolted, or some of them did.
Yes.
We might end up reaching that stage. I mean, we won't be alive then, but it's something to
Well,
consider.
especially if we're training robots with our stuff, our thoughts and our actions and whatever. I mean, I feel about this sort of, I mean, Alan, I understand that sort of analogy. You don't want to tie yourself to the train track. That's not going to stop progress, right? And it's the way I feel about anything that has to do with change, and particularly major change, is you can make it hard and dig your heels in and try to resist it and try to push back on it. And it's not going to stop it. So the better maybe approach is to try to figure out how you can have a part and a say in how it rolls out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think we're going to stop this happening, but we've got to enable it to happen in a humane way. Interesting. You mentioned Dick and Asimov, I think it was. Also, Frederick Brown, The Answer, right? Is there a God? There is now, right? The short story. It's a classic in sci-fi. Right up there with Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Because, yeah, and that's the thing, right? If we just instantiate this AI as an all supreme being that is able to do all the work, and we don't adjust society, Teri, I think you're onto something there. We can't stop it, but we've got to adjust and accept how we adopt
how
it.
we do it, and say how, have that voice heard, but also, it takes some thinking and, and some actual practical put it to use, kind of stuff. It can't just be dreaming and, and whatnot. But you see people all the time. I mean, I think that's in some ways, I'm going to get political. What the whole MAGA movement is all about, people digging their heels in, trying to stop the world from going, or society from going in one way or another, or progressing, instead of saying, wait a minute, how can I have some say in this and help shape the future, and in a humane way, and in a way that protects us as human beings,
It'll be interesting. Guys, I got to move us along here. let me just close with these two thoughts, though. First of all, for those of you who are into the whole AI, sci-fi, robot type of thing, at our RSA event, which is Monday, I believe the 22nd of March, 22nd or 23rd of March, whatever that Monday is our AI native development, securing AI native development sessions it's a seminar, full day at Moscone Center. Our keynote speaker is none other than David Brin, Hugo Nebula award-winning author, and he is going to be giving out early advance copies of his newest book. I believe it's called AI Alien or something, AI Alien. Like it's an AI alien. And for people who are attending our seminar. So if you're going to RSA, Monday is Sandbox Day, but it's also our Securing AI Native Development. Check it out. Indicate when you register at RSA a preference for it. Come see David Brin, get a copy of his new book. Secondly, how cool would it be if they're training them watching Blade Runner, right? And just a quick shout out to Daryl Hannah from the original Blade Runner. I had a crush on her when that came out. I was a teenager and it never left. But let's move on now to quantum, to something else out there. Quantum is coming. I feel like Paul Revere. Quantum is coming. Mike, one light or two?
So we've been talking about this off and on now, and Google now has an alert that they've issued telling everybody, hey, we need to get serious about post-quantum cryptography, and they're advising people to start working on it now because theoretically, at least, we're going to have these machines in 2029, maybe sooner, who knows, and they're going to be able to break all our existing encryption schemes, or at least the ones that are not post-quantum ready. And it turns out that this is not a trivial chore. I mean, on one hand, you can maybe just replace your storage system and maybe rip out an application, but it's not likely you're going to get rid of everything before now in 2029. So there's going to be some stuff out there that is going to be exposed by these machines. And the assumption is that nation states will have these machines, and some of them are allegedly, already collecting encrypted data that they hope to read someday in the near future. I don't know how valuable that data will be, but Alan, I'm going to start with you on this one because I know you follow this closely. And so, what's your assessment here of where are we? And I also would point out that there's another report on Security Boulevard that says that roughly only about a third of people are doing anything about this right now, which is maybe good or bad.
So here's Alan Shimel with the good news, right? I feel like it's Sunday, want to buy my magazine. But the fact of the matter is this is one area where we didn't wait for the bricks to fall on our heads before we started digging out, right? The good folks at NIST, MITRE, have been working with industry now for years, 5 years, 7 years. I've been following it.
Right.
And they have what we call post-quantum algorithms, right, that are secure even against quantum computers, supposedly, right? And they have made certificates that have these post-quantum algorithms available for some time now. DigiCert, company I work with and follow a lot, I just interviewed one of their executives a couple of weeks ago. They're all over this, right? And they're one of the biggest cert providers out there. So the good news is for anybody who wants to get out ahead of this, you can replace your certificates, and whether those are for human identity, machine identity, API identity, AI identity, you can replace your certificates with post-quantum certificates that have the new algorithms in them right now. And here's the other good news. Part and parcel of this, Google and others, along with NIST, have accelerated the expiration, the lifespan of certificates, so that by 2028, I think it's a 47-day cycle. You got to put new certificates in every 47 days or so, 49 days, something like that. Because by forcing you to get new certificates, you might as well get quantum-ready certificates. And so they think we're going to be out ahead of that. But having quantum-proof certificates, quantum-proof algorithms in your certificates is only one piece of the puzzle. the other piece of the puzzle, Mike, you alluded to it. It's not necessarily, it's nation states, yes, but it's every nickel and dime thief out there, hacker, who have stolen, tarred, hashed payloads all these years, who is now waiting for someone to come encrypt them for them cheap, right? So one company or one group that has a quantum can then start decrypting all of your hashed payloads. Now, the good news is those payloads, they're kind of like radioactive uranium. They have a half-life.
Yeah.
Every couple months, every years, they get less and less useful. So the bet is by the time quantum is actually available to the kind of people who would use it to crack these hashed payloads, the information in there is going to be severely, severely degraded and deprecated. I hope so, but who knows? Then there's a whole nother class, which is people who just, aren't using certificate-based encryption. They're using other kinds of encryption. And they're not necessarily looking to upgrade. And, if a fool and their money is quickly parted, given the opportunities to use new algorithms here that are post-quantum, if you don't take advantage of it, shame on you.
Teri, what's your sense of how serious is the cybersecurity community looking at all this right now? Because part of the issue, I think, is it's very hard to get a business leader to take something that's 3 years away in their mind and say, all right, let's prioritize that and allocate some budget to it when they have a million other things that they're trying to deal with.
Well, exactly so. And I mean, I think it's long been a hallmark of especially U.S. companies, right, that they don't think beyond the near term, particularly on issues like this, and they have to be hit in the face with a problem before they take action. I mean, there has been I've been encouraged by what NIST is doing, but I haven't heard a lot of the people that I talk to in the business world actually discussing this or actually even understanding it that well.
Mm-hmm. So, Mike, let me give you my Hollywood Squares Paul Lynn answer. How do we get business executives to take post-quantum algorithms seriously? Put an AI in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or replace them with robots.
Yeah. I mean, but the good news is look, if they build them, if the certificate folks build these post-quantum algorithms into the certificates, and you need to renew your certificates. So it's like, you're getting it, it's painless virtually, right? It goes right in there.
Now, some IT people are getting savvy and they are figuring out that, well, I can get approval for an AI project. So they're shoving some encryption work inside that AI project and saying, it becomes a rider to that AI bill. All right, and other folks are doing the same thing with these so-called zero trust initiatives. So maybe it's not that I go ask for money for encryption. I just kind of tack it on to something else.
Sneak it in.
Well, it goes with your certificates when you set up anything. I feel compelled to mention, we here at Techstrong are actually partnering with our friends at DigiCert. And I think nominations just closed for the inaugural, what we're calling Quantum Security 25. The top 25 leaders in quantum security, We had, I think a couple of hundred nominations. And I'm one of the judges who will be going through and picking, the top 25. Some of them are so many PhDs and like brilliant people. I feel inadequate, right? To judge.
I have a question. Are robots eligible? Can they be?
So what are you really asking? Are robots people too?
I don't know. Ask the Supreme Court. They probably have an opinion on that.
Well, they are allowed to donate to campaigns, right? Because everyone can donate to campaigns. Let's not. We went down that road, didn't we? We went there.
I will say I'm interested in whether this actually is a catalyst for the world at large to finally replace a 3,000-year-old technology passwords. I mean, literally, this is how we used to get into castle gates in medieval times. We had a password, and we still use passwords with the most modern infrastructure in the world. Look, part of me thinks that this could be the great catalyst to move on to things like pass keys or pass phrases or something entirely different. Maybe we can use quantum as a way to protect our stuff that's going to work finally. Because let's face it, everything we've done up till this point has not. Breach after breach after breach. So maybe this will actually be the catalyst to do some good in the world. I do, however, think of, IPv4, and we were running out of v4 IP addresses, and all of a sudden now we're not, and no one's using IPv6 really, except some nerds in enterprise IT. So, I don't know. I'm marginally hopeful, but not that hopeful.
There will always be laggards.
I would say this, though, the problem with this whole notion of so-called Q day is nobody knows exactly when that day is. And when it comes, it's not like some nation state's going to stand up and say, hey, we got this quantum computer thing, and they're just going to start.
I think Hallmark will declare it.
Yeah.
I see a bunch of posts on social media.
There'll be some big marketing blitz.
Right.
Seriously, I've actually spoken to quantum folks about the Q day. A company called Q Secure, the CEO there, brilliant woman. A lot of the quantum thing, people think you're not going to have a Q day, right? It's not going to be some date on the calendar that today all hell broke loose or whatever, or not. But you'll know it after it happens. You'll be able to point back and say, yeah, around that time, that's when we started kicking in.
Right.
And so it won't necessarily be fireworks like July 4th.
The issue with Q Day is, business people hear that and say, aren't you the same guys that were talking to us about Y2K?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And there is that.
That was a
There
buzz.
is that. All right. On that note, let's move on to our next session here, our next segment, assessing AI. I thought we've assessed it 7 ways from Sunday, but Mike, what's the story?
We're talking about this from a cybersecurity perspective, but both Teri and Jon have stories up on Security Boulevard talking about how security teams are finally making use of AI, and it's starting to change the way they organize themselves and operate, because a lot of the attacks now are in near real time, right? It's not this thing where somebody launched an attacker and then I spent a couple of days looking for the vulnerability and then we updated the patch. The whole cycle is moving at a much faster pace. So, Teri, are the fundamentals of cybersecurity changing here?
I don't know that the fundamentals are. I guess the story that I did was on some dark trace research, right, into this, and it does look like they're predicting a shift, both in the way security is handled, but also in the workforce, and I think it's not surprising that most of the people that were surveyed for this, have acknowledged that like 96% that AI is like crucial to them. They've also about the same percentage acknowledged that they're being driven, their security strategies are being, sort of driven by this AI factor, and but then there's this other, aspect of it, right, where they also don't quite trust it. And that keeps coming forward. Like it might not be 90 something percent, but maybe it's 70 something, 80%. But most of them also do say it's in their security stacks now. And, but the people, and I don't know if this is true for what you've seen too, Jon, but the people I'm talking to say that they don't expect, so maybe it changes security, but they don't expect security teams to, increase their numbers. It's the more with less kind of thing. And we've talked about that a number of times before here. And I think also it's, and then the security teams obviously are no longer defending like just humans, right? It's got to be the non-human element. So yeah, it's reshaping cyber work. AI is in creating a demand for sort of higher context roles, which is interesting. And another thing that I think we've discussed a few times here. So I think one of the people that I talked to said that cyber is no longer going to be it's not a people scaling problem. It's going to become like an intelligence scaling problem, and I think that's about right.
So, I looked at that study and the trepidation, I guess. I think you use that in your story. That's a good way to describe the approach. But I also think Mike is right in terms of maybe it's like a subtle shift or acknowledgement on the security side that this is inevitable and it's a slower rollout perhaps than maybe the enterprise thought it would be. But I think it's a healthy to acknowledge this and to treat this more seriously than saying, well, we'll fix it, after it breaks a few times.
Right. I think so too. I think it's like a move in the right direction, or it indicates a move in the right direction for these guys. But I think time will tell if that's true.
I view it this way, to quote an old movie line too. AI can't live with it, can't live without it. And so, what I'm seeing is this. We are seeing more innovation in cyber right now than we have seen in the last 10, 15 years. We're seeing companies coming out of stealth by the buckets with healthy, like 50, 80, $100 million Series A rounds, 30, 40, $50 million seed rounds. And what's driving it? AI. And it drives it a couple ways. Either they're defending against AI, right? They're defending against AI-enabled attacks. They're harnessing AI to defend against sort of traditional security threats. Or thirdly, they are remapping the new attack surface that we are going to live under in an AI world. And then, you got to know it before you could defend it, kind of thing. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But AI is making, look, this Claude Opus scan that we talked about the other day, found 600 vulnerabilities in open source in a couple of days, unknown vulnerabilities, previously unknown. Right. I think that gets built in. That's a whole new style of scan, of test. We have DAST, we have SAST, we have software composition analysis, SCA. We're going to have sort of Opus AI fuzzing, or whatever you want to call it, right? To find yet more vulnerabilities. We're going to use agents. I know bots is a bad word. Wow. We're going to use agents to fix these things.
Yeah. But okay. And so I agree with all of that too. And there's some strides there that, and some sort of real embrace among security professionals, right, of AI and their security stacks, and a lot of money being put into AI. I've never quite sure how that translates into any real stuff. I mean, it's money, and you have to kind of see what it's put into going forward and how it's accepted. But another part of this survey from Darktrace was that they're very concerned, these cyber professionals, about agentic AI. Even with all of the stuff that's sort of going on and developments that are made, they don't feel like they can get out ahead of it.
Let me. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but when did my friends in the cybersecurity industry ever feel secure or not? They're curmudgeons by default. They're always clutching their pearls and oh my.
But a valid point.
I think it is fair to say that the attack surface is changing and it's getting much bigger and much wider. So there's cause for some concern.
Right. And I think that's the case. And then it's this whole non-human element that they're having to manage, and the
robots taking their place. That's what they're afraid of. But
Maybe
let
they
me, I'm a firm believer is it's going to take AI to beat AI. If you have AI-enabled attacks, and the bad guys are not shy about using AI, and you're not going to use AI to help you. Good luck to you.
I agree with that. And it's just a matter of if all this money that's being pumped into like AI type solutions and whatever is actually going to, develop something that people will use. I mean, yes, some of it will, but I just think the money part of it doesn't necessarily, say what's going to happen in the future in terms of the practical part.
I want to see how automated the remediation gets, because to me, that's kind of the next big thing.
Right.
It's if I'm going to discover these attacks and they're going to be happening in near real time, ultimately I need IT or app dev or somebody to kind of close the loop there. And
it's a great job for an agent, son of Moltbot.
Yeah, it's going to be an AI agent that's going to do that. And that also will happen in real time. And then I can't help but wonder if, today we manage IT and cybersecurity separately, but maybe those functions do converge a little bit more than they have historically. And that becomes, the new standard.
Maybe so.
Andy, what do you got?
Yeah, look, I just thought I wanted to drill into the economics of this. We talked about a little bit about the economics of AI and things like UBI and stuff in the last segment. But when we're looking at this, the idea of, and by the way, Teri, I loved a couple of lines in there. The one that really stood out for me is the challenge isn't only technical, it's also organizational and cultural. And that's a quote that you got in your article. And I love that because it actually drills into why we're doing this. A part of why we're using cybersecurity, using AI in cybersecurity is a volume problem. We're back to a big data problem. It's an economics problem. We can't get enough people with enough skills to attack the attack vectors that we're seeing because AI runs at computer speed. In other areas, like we were talking about before, it's about cost expense and taking expense out of the system. That's not what this is about, I don't think. This is about providing a security in an environment of scarcity versus providing profit in an environment of menial labor. And so I actually think this is a really interesting economic difference in what this particular article that you wrote about, Teri, was talking about. This idea of managing new agents, shadow AI, shadow APIs, augmenting cybersecurity professionals because we can't get enough. And you're absolutely right, Brian, Alan, if you don't attack this with the same technology you are being attacked with, then I think you're already behind the eight ball. It's like you're firing bows and arrows against an army who has tanks. And it's just not going to work. So, yeah, the economics of this, I think, is really interesting. I think you've drilled into some really important topics there, Teri.
Thank you.
The whole theme of this show is interesting to me is that we live in interesting times, and the technology is moving faster than ever, like with incredible repercussions or achievements we can achieve. But it's robots, quantum, or agents. People are actually kind of seeing what the repercussions will be, good and bad. And I just think it's actually heartening, as fast as technology is moving, for us to also understand and try to get ahead of the issues that are presenting themselves.
John, the security industry is famous for fighting the next war with the last war's
tools, yes.
Tools.
Yeah.
And because almost by nature, it's a reactive industry. We react to when an attack happens.
Well, yeah, the security's tried to get a proactive posture for years and years and years, right? And it's just not the way it's.
That is the way
AI and its speed and its whatever it brings. Does that speed up cybersecurity eventually? I mean, does it make it more of a
It has to. It has to,
right?
Cybersecurity has to move at the speed of business. I wrote something about that 15, 20 years ago, probably.
but every war starts out the same way, right? We discover that one side has obsolete technology and then they innovate and away we go. It's just in cybersecurity, I think the innovation cycle needs to happen every other day.
Yeah,
I think it is.
At quantum speed.
At quantum speed. And, let's tie a bow on this whole thing because, John, I think you were onto something there. There's a theme across this, right? Might be, I don't know if Mike picks these themes on
Oh, he
purpose,
does.
so it's pure
He does. He
happenstance. But I think what we've got to remember, though, is I'll leave everyone with one word: humanity. Humanity. All of this stuff is great, but I think we all have expressed some concerns about, the humanity of it. Whether we're, I feel like wasn't that when Joe McCarthy, "Where's your humanity, sir?" or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And
It's also what the guy said during the Hindenburg disaster.
yes, it is. Now that you mentioned it, the
humanity.
humanity of it. But is humanity the casualty here, or is humanity the benefactor? Right? Are we manufacturing or inventing our own extinction or obsolescence? I don't even know how to pronounce that word. Yes. It is interesting times. That's my last word. Anybody else? No? All right. Hey, you just watched Techstrong, gang. Stay tuned. We have our Techstrong TV schedule from this morning replaying now in the afternoon. So in case you missed that, it's on here. I hope you'll join us tomorrow for more Techstrong, gang. If you are going to RSA, do indicate your preference for the Securing AI Native Development seminar. As I mentioned, and by the way, David Brin's just one of a full day of amazing speakers on that. Really excited by it. And the Quantum Security 25, as I said, nominations have closed, but stay tuned for the finalists and the announcements around that. So good stuff there. Teri, Andy, John, Mike, thanks for joining. Thank you for joining. We'll see you tomorrow. This is Alan Shimel. We're out.